Debt-Free TV, in association with getoutofdebtfree.org.
This is the very first viewing and first meeting of the Wake Up project, and it's going to go throughout the country. We hope to get into or get the message to the young people in the universities and wherever they're gathering in social events, so that they're our future and they're the ones that's being basically kept in the dark. There's actually a battle going on, and something's happening, excuse me.
TV company. I'm making a documentary for Channel 4, and it's for Channel 4's Cutting Edge series, and we are following campaigners who aim to prevent home evictions. So we've been doing a little bit of filming with Tom Crawford and some other people. Tom's invited us here today, and we are mainly focusing on Tom, but we may get some shots of the crowd. So if you'd rather not be in the background of any shot at all, could you put your hand up? And other people at the back, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine? My colleague Sophie is just going to have a word with you. Oh, and that other lady at the back there. Brilliant. Okay, well, come and grab me or Sophie if you've got any questions. We're happy to tell you more about it.
Right.
Thank you.
Let's take that at the beginning.
Tom.
My computer didn't link in with a projector, so I borrowed another computer, so that's why. And apologies to everyone. So you want to start it. I hope there is sound on this. Should start in a minute. No, unfortunately, I didn't think so. I think I'll just give it up just now. Yeah, unless it goes somewhere else. No, it's the only one. So basically, what are you trying to pause it? No, I'm trying to get on that thing. That's it. Right, so this is the start of the Wake Up project. Now, throughout this country, whether it's in the courts, with the police, with the councils, wherever you look, there is deceit put before you, and a lot of people don't realise that they're actually, like the film in the Matrix, the things that's happening is a battle, as it says there. There's a war being perpetrated on you for your mind, and it's in control, and it's gone on since recorded history, only they didn't record it. So, for instance, touching on, which will be my subject, about evictions. Now, you think you go and take a loan for a mortgage. This is the #1 fraud that the banks perpetrate on you. You go in and you say, can you give me some money to buy a house? And they say, oh yes, yeah. How much do you want? Let's say 100,000. So they type in on a computer 100,000, and you go, oh right, okay. You'll have to sign a contract, and on that contract you'll see the amount, and you'll see your name and a date, but you won't see any signature from them. You're the only one that signs. And then the solicitor that you employ, the conveyancing solicitor, will say, don't date it. In my case, Mr. Crawford, or Mrs. Crawford, send it to me and I'll date it afterwards. The very first fraud that has taken place is they didn't give you any money in the first place. You created the money by borrowing off yourself in the future. It's a total scam. And the moment they start charging you interest on something you haven't been given is a fraud. The second fraud is they don't sign the contract. There should be 2 signatures. That's the second fraud. The third fraud is when you send that contract back to your conveyancing solicitor, he dates it and he bundles that document in with maybe another 5,000 when he sends it back to the bank. And another fraud is he doesn't just work for you, he works for the bank also. So that's another fraud, that's a conflict of interest, not allowed to do it. When they get that 5,000 contracts, they turn it into a bond, and that bond gets sold on the stock market, and they're allowed to sell it between 8 and 10 times. That means they get £1 million for your £100,000 house. They've got another scam going at the same time. They also insure you, so you fail to pay, they can get the money. So if you miss 3 payments, which is 90 days, they will come. It's not a case of when, they will come and take your property because the 90 days kicks in and they get paid for that. And then on top of that, they take your property and sell that. And there are other frauds, but it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, coming to the evictions themselves, this is total fraud, because when you think you go into court, you think it's a court of law. This is not a court of law. Everything in this world that they've created is a shadow. You've got shadow police, you've got officers, and you've got constables. You've got a shadow court, county court. It really is. It was banned in the 16th century. They were star chambers. You go in, the claimant sits on one side with the barrister, you sit the other, and a man in the centre does a deal with the claimant. It's not a court of law, because when I said, you're not taking my house, I would have been in contempt of court. And the first thing that happens when you're in contempt of court, they contact the police, and the police come along and would arrest me and take me away. But it isn't a court. It's only an administration court where you just, it's just dealing in business. So the court isn't right. And then you come to when they send in the bailiffs. We now know that 95% of bailiffs in this country are nothing more than actors. They're not real bailiffs. There are real bailiffs out there. The real bailiffs, if you want to identify them, they turn up in the same type of vehicles as the police. They have a power of arrest. These bailiffs, they know nothing. I've chased so many away by simply saying, let me see the paperwork. In my case, I'll play a bit of this if I can.
Yeah, that should be going.
Yeah, it's moving then. That was the 23rd of July 2014. 350 people came to support my family. Then, on the 26th of January 2015, 800 good men and women turned up to support my family. This is the power of people. This is how to stop these payments. As you can see, we're only in a small little room and road, so it's packed. Richard Banks is the CEO of Bradford and Bingley. He's a criminal. Everyone there that turned up are heroes. And we had Anonymous as well. Brilliant group of people, works in background. I'll support them any day. A lot of these people I now know and account as my friends. as you can see, that's another road beside my one. We had the press were brilliant. The press came along, they filmed it, they documented it. Then, if I would normally cut ahead, but I can't do this because it's not my computer, I don't know how it's done. But the music's okay. That's a real policeman, by the way. That was my little bungalow, and Sue's my wife. That's surveillance. They weren't well pleased when they realised that they parked the cars down the bottom thinking they'd sneak up and take the house. So they all chauffeured them away. We even had helicopters. Now, after this, they came. I'm sorry, this is 3 minutes long. But it turned into a festival. This is what people should be doing when you hear your neighbours are being attacked by these criminals. It's only people's power that can stand up against them. We've got the power, and we only give it to them. Give it to them. Because of your collusion with them, you don't realise it. You assume that these officers are turning up. They're not officers. This is a private police company. It's gone on a bit longer than I thought. It is nearly done. Then we went to court, and we went to court on the 2nd of May 2015. We don't know how many people turned up at that court case. Hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of people turned up. We even had a red bus about the bangers. So the support was absolutely brilliant. And somebody made a hat, because I wear a hat, and they put that. And I'm afraid I would normally cut that out. I'm not that big-headed. Yeah, so the 2nd of May, we had hundreds and hundreds of people turned up at court. And basically, we won the court case.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but they didn't play by the game. Every time we beat the court, we beaten them. We went to court, they didn't abide by the rules. We went to court, they changed the rules. We went to court, and they ignored the rules. I've had a Queen's Bench judge turn around to me and say, Mr. Crawford, I don't care about the law. And that's treason. He should go to jail. So, after this, they came from a house. I was going down to London, the Royal Courts, to assist a young couple to save their home. We waited until I was an hour and a half down the M1. I'm in Nottingham. And they attacked. My son was going to Birmingham, so they waited till he went to Birmingham. And then my daughter left the house, leaving my wife on her own in the morning, and went to the supermarket, and they attacked. And when they attacked, there was 40 to 50 bailiffs and security. There was 200 to 250 police officers. They came in waves. There was helicopters. There was 27 riot vans. There was 3 armed response. There was an ambulance. The fire engine was on standby. And this is for a debt, alleged debt of 43,000. They spent £1.5 million so far to try and get this. These are criminals. And because I stood up and my wife stood up against these, there's nothing more than scum. They threw everything at us, and we're still here, and we're not going to to that. The reason they came, it was called Operation Hooper. They planned the operation. Took them 2 months to plan it. They hacked the phone. They diverted our home phone. My wife had just lost her mother. She was lying in the morgue. Vulnerable person. They can't do it, shouldn't do it. They're not allowed to do it. We thought, well, they did. To save someone's home, it was more important that I went down and assisted this young couple. There's photographs on this, actually, that explains it. The only reason they got us out of the house is because the humanity that my wife had, instead of staying there, she came out with the dog. They threatened to put it down. They didn't even give her the dress that her mother was to be buried in. They, absolute animals. And now they're in serious trouble. The bailiff, in law, when a bailiff turns up, he's supposed to carry a warrant. And the warrant has to state his name on it. And he is the only one allowed to carry that document. He's called the appointed bailiff. He's supposed to turn up and he's supposed to show it to the defendant. On the day when I asked him to identify himself, I said, under law, you are supposed to identify yourself and then show me the warrant, because anybody could be a bailiff. Well, they are. And then, when he realised I knew the law, he simply turned around and literally ran away. Because 7 years in jail for not identifying yourself and purporting to have a court document. Another 7 years in jail for carrying a document under the false colour of being from a court. So he's looking at 14 years in jail. That's why I ran away. You face these bailiffs like this. You stand up to them. They have no authority. You have the authority. And if you can get your friends and neighbours to do this, you got the power and you take it away from them. Now these talks are just skirting on the edge. Every year, 70 to 80,000 people are being evicted. Also on top of this is the misery it causes. In Leicester, last year, a young man, he was a paraplegic. They went to evict him. The only thing he could do is put his wheelchair against the door. They forced the door open, put him out in the garden, in the rain, in his underpants, and threw everything out in the garden. Is this the type of society we have now got? The authority, there is no justice. There is no justice in this land except criminal. I got on the roof of my bungalow a month ago. Bad timing, it was the end of a hurricane. So it was a bit wet up there. But I got in to the bungalow, took some tiles out, got in, and then the police turned up. And they did a deal with me. I said, I want you to charge me with aggravated trespass, criminal damage, and I intended to take whatever goods of value in here away. So you've got to charge me. I was in the actions of a burglary. And they said, yeah. I came down and there was no handcuffs. They took me to a van, put me in the van and said, we need to interview you, Mr. Crawford. When would you like to come into the station? Have you ever heard the police ask you? Right. So I said, well, I'm a bit cold now. I'll pop up to the pub, warm up, have a pint. What about next Wednesday? They said, yeah, that's fine. I still haven't been charged. They are scared to charge me for the simple fact because I want to get in front of a jury. That was the only reason. 12 good men and women in front of a jury. They would be the most educated jury in this land. I'll tell them about money, I'll tell them about the corruption of the courts, I'll tell them about the deceit in the banks, I'll tell them about everything. And I had no debt. We paid our mortgage. 25 years we paid our mortgage. And we paid one extra payment because we knew that they were criminals. Now, my son, prior to this, I should say, a group of 6 people got onto my roof to support Sue and myself. They got arrested. They were charged with conspiracy to cause criminal damage. Conspiracy means a jury. So they were put to Leicester Crown Court. They didn't want it in Nottingham because of thousands or the hundreds of people that would turn up. The prosecution lasted a week with all the witnesses. During that period, Mark, who's going to speak, also my son, and there was 4 defendants that were self-litigants in a criminal case. That's very, very unusual. And my son said, all this time, all we wanted to see is the warrant. I've asked for it. I said, you can have the bungalow, show me the warrant. I've done it every time. And my son played the same card in court. And the judge said, contempt of court if you carry on asking. Next day, I want to see the warrant. All right, Mr. Crawford, to my son, we'll get the warrant. And he ordered the police to go and take the warrant. 4 or 5 days went by, no warrant. The prosecution dropped the case.
Hey.
There is no warrant. There is no lawful warrant out there. A lawful warrant contains the signature of the bailiff, the signature of the agent or claimant, but the names should be written down there. Every part, the amount of money owed, and there should be a sworn affidavit attached to it. You can print these warrants off the internet with the, well, it's not a seal. Don't worry about seals. They've got that one covered. It's just a button stamp which says County Court, Texas. Wherever. It's not a county court. It's a star chamber. Now, we know what's going on. And they know we know what's going on. And they're worried. This system is going to come crashing down very, very soon.
It's untouchable. Your case is one of so many.
Yeah. The judge said they turned up some documents verified by the court clerk, by the delivery manager. He doesn't have the power to verify anything. And the judge picked them up and went, these aren't court documents. Put them down. They put false documents. In fact, he didn't want to hold them, because to be a hold of them, it's a criminal offence. So, and the other thing is to bear in mind, when you ask in court to see the warrant, you need to see the original warrant. The reason being is it's got a lot of information on it that they don't want you to see, if it even exists. It'd be like if they turned up to my house and put a gun to my wife and said, give me the house. In court, you wouldn't expect them to turn up with a plastic replica gun and say, that's the one we used. You got to see the original. Originality is the thing that scatters them. They just can't deal with it because it's all fake. It's shadows. Everything that's going on is shadows. Now, that's on the eviction side. In each level, there's 2 speakers was going to talk. One, unfortunately, was in Nottingham at another meeting I was at, and he was struggling with his throat, so he couldn't be here. That's Rob B. We're going to try and get a Skype connection with the other speaker who's broken down. So, unfortunately, and that's John Hurst. Both of those were talking about council tax. They've cracked it. The council tax in the next 6 weeks or month or 6 months will go. It's fraudulent. the county court aren't putting these out. Your councils are. They're stamping them.
Yeah.
They've got the stamps.
Yeah.
They do 5,000 at a time and stamp them.
Yeah.
They also go after your children the same way. They give away children. There's a huge amount of money in the dealing of children. The reason being is, when they evict you, and you've got children, they go on the street. You're not fit and proper people to have children, and they take them off you. They get 500,000 per child. That's what they get through the system as it goes. It's 500 each child, and it's in every Western world. We've got the same problem. It's not just here. It's in Canada. It's in America. It's in South Africa, Australia. It's anywhere where the common law should reign supreme. They've tried to do away with it.
And they do it in secret.
It's all shadow. It's not even secret. You go to court. It's not secret. They'll tell you. And if you have the ears to hear, you'll hear, and the eyes to
But
see.
the family courts are, you can't go in, they're private.
Well, what they did with me on the eviction, on the court date, they put me into a family court because it's so small. They didn't want people seeing. But we had enough people, 12 people for a jury that could have hung that judge, and he will go to jail. And everyone on the 2nd of July 2015 will go to jail, and we're looking at about 300 people, and anyone involved in our case will go to jail. So there's many things to talk about, but I'll have to stop here. I'm getting a bit dry, and our next speaker will be coming on in 2 minutes. That'll be Mark Ceylon from Get Out of Debt Free. He's a powerhouse behind them and many things that's happening out there that the general public don't know. I'm privileged to be standing here speaking to you because you're all awake. Does everybody know about this straw man? Yeah. You know about the creation of money? Yeah. So you're basically
But it's
there.
still things to learn. There's still
Can you
things-
still cover it?
Sorry?
Can you still cover it?
Yeah. I'll do it later on. Okay. But well, I'll go over it then. Yeah.
100,000 children go missing in this land every year, worldwide.
Official statistics.
Now,
The real statistics are 10 times bigger than
the reason being why we've got
20 million.
the slavery that we've got that you don't know about is the creation from your birth certificate. You get your birth certificate because your mother gave you away. You don't realise that when you register anything, it's giving away the equity title to that person. That's why when you register your car, you're no longer the owner, you're the registered keeper. That's why they can stop you in the street. That's why they can take the car off you. It's exactly the same with your children. You've registered the birth.
It says the mother's the informant.
Yeah, and it's also lots of information on there, but that's for a totally separate talk. It will, the stuff we've learned about the birth certificate, even today, about the glossia, which we were listening to yesterday, which is everything in capitals. It's a foreign language. It comes from Latin, and anything that's a foreign language on an English document makes it null and void, but it's part of a fraud. Anything that they send you with a glossia, it's unlawful. They're not supposed to do it. And when you start using the name on your birth certificate, you're committing a crime. It's because you aren't that person. They created a separate entity. When you were born, you were registered and they gave you a name. And that name is all in glossary, in capitals. The next name is your real name. And you're allowed to use that, your Christian name or your first name. It's fine. As soon as you start using their name, you're committing fraud, and then you're in that system. And from that very moment, they've created a straw man from your birth certificate, and they act upon that straw man. So when you're in court, you're not there. It's a straw man. But you take responsibility for the straw man. It was the only other day I was leading through Black's Law, and I came across, it's called Action of Ejectment. Now, they're in La La Land, these people. What they do is, for a claimant to get some land, they first of all, gift the property to a relative or a friend, and then that friend invents a fictitious person. The fictitious person takes the defendant to court. The fictitious person invents another fictitious person that the defendant has, and takes that fictitious person to court. If you don't believe me, look it up. Action of ejectment. They claim it's not there, but it does. It is there. And when you're standing there, and I've got all these documents, they can't hear you, can't see you. And the ironic thing is, the fictitious person hasn't turned up, so he's ruled against. And that's why you lose everything, because it's an illusion. It's a battle for your minds.
Magic trick.
It's diabolical, but very clever. And they thought that we'd never figure it out, but we have, and we're doing so. So that's just touching on the straw man, and on. I'd really need to put some shots up so you could see it. So I'm going to ask if he's around. Has he disappeared? Is Mark sitting there? So I'm passing it on to Mark, and I think 99% of people in here know Mark. He's brilliant. Give him a big hand.
Debt Free TV, in association with GetOutOfDebtFree.org.